Hi, this is Stan. Welcome back. Got the flat car finished, so if you'd like to see some building details, stay tuned. It's time to start thinking about some final details because that actually affects the way that I'm going to build the rest of this flat car. So here's a photograph that is sort of inspirational for what I'm trying to do. Let's zoom in and take a closer look. This is just a black and white printout of a picture I saw online, and I'm going to use this for some ideas. So here's a little flat car, kind of narrow gauge-ish in its design. See it how it has a pretty simple flat platform, and this cabling underneath provides a little bit of structural tension to keep the flat from sagging. Now this has the arch bar type trucks on it, which mine does not, but oh well, so I can't be perfect in all the details. But essentially you can see the flat sides, and I'm going to try and imitate this tensioning cabling down underneath, and I'll do some stake pockets along the side, and then I'll be doing some decking on top. One thing I forgot to do last time was show you how I actually connect these trucks to the frame, and that is with a bolt that has a hole in it here that I drilled and a little clevis pin. So this will snap on and snap off, and it will hold the trucks in place when I lift the car up, but it also comes off very easily as well when I want to remove the trucks. Got a little fender washer here, and there's one important washer down here that I'll probably grease up just a little bit. That allows the trucks to rotate but still give a little bit of movement, so that every time you rock the body of the car, it doesn't want to pull the wheel away from the rail. So you need just a little bit of rocking motion, not too much, not too tight. I received some little stake pockets and some grab rails from 1-Inch Railroad Supply. They look awesome. Got just a little bit of cleanup to do on those castings, but they will add some nice detail. I have to be really careful because this is not meant to sit on a shelf and stare at, so this will be put to work, and you got to be really careful about tiny breaky, snappy off parts that will just end up on the ground the minute your foot comes into contact with it. So there's not going to be a lot of delicate, brake wheels and all kinds of fancy stuff. I need to keep this easy to maintain, but still kind of have sort of a look to it. I got started milling out some of the oak that I'm going to be using to band around the edges. You can see I've got a couple of long pieces here, about 1 inch this way and about a 1/2 inch or so this way, and these are the end pieces here, and you can see I've started to mill out a notch that will fit over that frame just like that, one on each end. The next step for me is to continue getting these oak pieces mounted to the ends and the sides. I think I'm going to screw and glue them, and then I'm going to hide the screws with these stake pockets. I think that'll be the plan, so I better get busy. Perfectly flush on both sides. Good. Alright, got the end pieces glued on. We'll wait a few minutes and then start on the sides. And one side, as you can see here, you can never have too many clamps in the shop. And the last side. So let's go grab some lunch. Sometimes when I'm working through the edge of plywood, and in this case I've got some oak, which is a fairly hard wood. I do a couple little tricks. One is these are a number 6 screw, and this is the combination countersinking and drill bit that's designed for a number 6 screw, but I don't use it. I upsize and I use this for a number 8 screw, so it gives me a little bit bigger pilot hole. The other thing is I do the final tightening with a manual screwdriver. So we're all glued up, and I've got some support screws in, and they are going to be covered with my stake pockets. So I figured that all out. I think the spacing was 2.5 in from the corner, 4 3/4 to here, and then 8 inches here, which gives about 8-inch spacing nominally for 3 spaces down the side. Well, let's flip this over. We got to do a little work on the underside. I have to bend up some soft aluminum for the steps, and so I put together a really quick little jig with some finish nails so that I can easily bend them into a pattern. And then I will eventually epoxy them into the frame like that. Here's just a few of the details. These will go on the corners, and I cut those from a long piece of aluminum, drilled out holes, and they'll be held in place with these small pins. These stake pockets are pre-cast, but I need to clean up some of the flashing on those at the sander. These are small railings. They are pre-made, and they will have small rivets that will attach them into the wood. The footsteps are made out of this aluminum rod, and I think I got this at a gardening center. They were little aluminum pieces of metal made for holding a drip line in place, I think. Very soft and easy to bend, but strong enough for what I need for the foot stirrups. As far as the tensioning rod and turnbuckle, I found this at the hardware store. I think that'll work great. And I found some really soft wire. Here's the process that I'm using to attach these little stake pockets. There's 4 little holes in each casting. Because I don't have a drill bit that small, these are the brads that I'm using, and they will simulate rivets or bolt heads or whatever in this scale. I'm actually taking one of them, cutting the head off, and using it as a drill bit. So I'll be drilling a pilot hole with an actual brad itself. So when it comes to attaching the actual stake pocket, I'll be taking another brad and I'll cut the tip off instead of the head, and that will do 2 things. It will shorten it so it's the right length, but also without that pointed tip it will have less tendency to wedge and split the wood. It'll sort of smash its way through. It's an old carpenter's trick I learned from my dad many years ago when working with finish nails, and it'll work just great here. The pilot hole that I drill is shorter than the actual brad that I push in, so this will attach firmly. All right, 11 more to go. Well, to start the process of the decking, I've got my stop block set up on the chop saw and the correct length here for the deck, and so I'm going to cut up some oak 1x2s. So to rip all the tiny little planking pieces I need, I put a temporary surface down on the table saw, ran the blade up to the proper dimensions, and that way, even though I have a sliver of wood that I'm trimming off, it's still completely supported all the way through the cut. Well, I'm really happy with the way these turned out. I'm going to have to use that technique on the saw more often, totally supporting the work all around the blade. When you look at these strips, this is oak, no circular saw blade burn marks on any of these. This is pretty amazing. Well, let's lay them out and see how they fit. Took the advice of a friend who suggested I not glue these down, but I tack them down with brads. That way I can lift them off in the future if I need to without destroying the base. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to use 18 gauge nails with this nailer, and I made a little story stick that has the lineup lines on there so that I can have some sort of uniform pattern to the nails. Well, I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope some of the details were interesting on this flat car build, and I hope to see you again right here next time.